And we're live. So this one, it's about learning from other successful people. So the title of it, Become Unstoppable by Mimicking the Habits of Elite Performers. Yeah, this is explored in a lot of books. One of the most famous books, Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. What that book's trying to do is explain some of the things that people do, the habits that people do. I like habit too, begin with the end in mind. This is about a long visualization of your life. It's creating a personal mission statement, which is the same as what I call an identity. And then it's living in accordance with that, and there's a lot of, other great habits in that book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Other books too, things like Tim Ferriss's Tools of Titans is basically a collection of tools, habits, systems that elite performers use. And I've had this conversation a few times with people, including my brother, where I kind of like, he gets annoyed with me because I wind him up a bit. Because I can sort of look at people and just observe the way they live their life day to day. And, I don't, he's my brother, so I try to help him, right? But I wouldn't sort of criticize random people. People live their lives however they want. But with my brother, I always say to him, you should, when he says, why am I, this isn't working or whatever, I might point out to him, well, you were in bed till 1 p.m., you know what I mean, 1 in the afternoon. And I'll turn around and say things like, success leaves clues, which is a massive thing that Tony Robbins says. And, so the idea is to model yourself. It's almost like just study someone that is successful and just look at what they do and ask yourself, what are they doing there? Think about that term that Tony Robbins says, success leaves clues. What are they doing that you're not? And a lot of it is that, looking at the behaviours of these people. So I've wrote a few down here that I've learned from others. First one, I've got Tony Robbins. Success leaves clues. Very, very much so. If there's one thing that he's taught us, is that success leaves clues. Right. Another one, Tim Ferriss. The low information diet is something that's absolutely massive that he does, learning to almost like reduce the overhead on your mind, batch things up, like the whole batching emails thing is a great strategy for communication. So you could go and learn that, rather than as soon as you wake up in the morning or as soon as you get into work, open your computer, fire up your emails and start dealing with them. Unless your job is specifically to deal with emails. The problem with looking at emails is it's almost like a means of procrastination, because if you constantly check emails, they'll zap 20 minutes out of every hour, because there's always new ones coming in. So you just waste 20 minutes every hour. Whereas what Tim Ferriss says is batch them, leave them, don't look at your emails until 1 p.m. Right? So what you should be doing in the morning is your, like I say in my videos, like the 3 things that you need to do today, the 3 small things working towards your goals. Do them in the morning. That's your productive work in focus blocks of time, right? Like Cal Newport's deep work. So you maybe up to an hour each, sometimes only half an hour. Just choose what are the top 3 things that I need to do today. Do them in the morning. Don't look at emails and start faffing around responding to queries and things, unless it's super important or unless your job is to provide customer service and respond to emails. You should be working on your goals, the things that are going to get you closer. So use that morning to do what are the 3 most important things that are going to move me towards my goals in them focus blocks of time. And then when it gets to about 1 p.m., then look at emails. And what you'll find with what Tim's talking about in low information diet is that most of them emails tend to sort themselves out. You know, a lot of people are copied in, some of them go away, and you have less to do basically. And instead of spending 20 minutes every hour context switching between various emails, you can't be productive like that. You need to work in focus blocks of time. If you're looking at emails constantly, it's like checking your phone constantly. You just context switch, you'll be very unproductive, and it will zap at least 20 minutes of every hour. So this is the idea of it. Leave emails till later. A lot of people get upset with me because I don't get back to them very quick, and this is just because I always prioritize what I need to do for my goals. If my goal involves serving you and you're a client, then you'll be dealt with first. But if it's just sort of like random emails or messages, or even important emails or messages, they come second to me getting what I need to do first in the day. So Tim Ferriss has been, someone that I've modeled myself on for years. He's like, one of my, I'm a massive Tim Ferriss fan. I pretty much, if Tim Ferriss says something, I will just do it. That's it, because I just trust him and believe in him that much. And I like his life. I like the fact that I did a talk about, I don't want to make this live about Tim Ferriss, but one more thing about Tim Ferriss. I like the way he approaches life. If you look at the size of his business, he's doing quite well for himself financially, but his team is tiny, right? So he has not a lot of people to manage. I think he said he didn't want to run hundreds and a team of 100 people or more. There's probably like Tim Ferriss's team is probably the same size as my team, right? Quite small. And he references Bo Burlingham's book, Small Giants. It's about being a small team but being a giant, you know what I mean? I think that's really good. If you look at all the big podcasters today, they're similar. They've probably got like a videographer, an editor, somebody who does all the marketing or whatever, somebody who does all the administration and bookings, and and someone on accounts or whatever. There's probably not many more people than that, and that's what I like about that kind of life. That's kind of the way I choose to be. I've got obviously the tech business, so there's a few people there, and we scale that up and down as and when we need, but it's never a massive team. And we're all focused like this, and the reason why I'm able to do that is because of the habits that I have in terms of getting what I need to do. I am no longer running around like an headless chicken. I am focusing every day on what are the top 3 things that I need for my goals, and I set I've got obviously all my goals are in the journal, obviously at the start this last 6 months. And then I have a week, there's like a focus of the week. So I have a little weekly plan. What am I going to do this week? And then each day I peel off from that plan and do 3 small things. Another person that I model myself on in terms of success is Naval Ravikant. Anything that Naval says is absolutely brilliant. If you've ever listened to any of his podcasts, they're absolutely amazing. Big thing that I got from Naval is learning to love to read. I think reading, also Warren Buffett, he's a big advocate for reading. I think reading and educating yourself is fantastic. All the knowledge is contained in books. Some of the books recently, obviously, big business book, Traction EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. Read this a while back. I featured it in a few videos, but it's a really good system, and there's loads of nuggets in here to help you in business. I'm really studying this stuff at the minute just because what's going on with business. So like tech business is like really busy but quite crucial. We're going for some big opportunities at the minute. We need a big decision, waiting on some decisions. And we've got a trade show next week, which is going to be so busy in the city. When you set up a stand and you've got to be there, you've got to demo the software, we've got to try and gather contacts, leads, all that kind of thing. It's going to be a very busy event. So using tools to sort of help you do that is really good. So like in a nutshell, and you know, and I was taking the piss saying to my brother what Tony Robbins says, success leaves clues. Well, it fucking does. I mean, all you got to do is look at it, it's literally look at someone who's more successful than you or got the success in your area that you want to be successful in, and look at them and go, what do they do? What are the success habits that they've got? What do they do? I bet, right, there's probably some generic things that more successful people do. Not always, but there will be certain obvious things like being able to work in focus blocks of time. That's one. You know, like I said, I choose 3 things a day, right? What are the top 3 things that you need to do today? Now, you may do 10, 20 things in a day, right? Sometimes we always do. There's all these little bits that you do in between. But instead of setting your target to, I must do these 10 things on my to-do list, the problem with a to-do list, it becomes a not to-do list, and you end up rolling most of it over to the next day, right? But here's the thing, why do I choose 3? Well, there's always around about 3 things that are the biggest needle movers out of that list, your to-do list. So that's why I always focus on not the to-do list, because you know there might be loads of things that you do in a day, and you can write that down too. You know, I do a focus of the week with a big long list of things. But every day I'm going to say, what are the top 3 things that I can do today that are going to give me the biggest impact? And you can't do 10 or 20 things consistently every day, but you can do 3, and you can make a habit out of that. And that, just doing 3 things a day consistently over time, will be a huge impact down the line. Compound, 6 months, 12 months, you'll see. Right, this is I've done everything, right, for years now, and you know, you pretty much can design the life that you want just by doing that. But yeah, back to modeling yourself on the successes of others. There's some obvious things that a lot of successful people do. Yeah, they can work in focus blocks of time. They tend to read, right, and journal and these things, right? So they have like some kind of routine, right? And even when they travel, they also apply that routine. It's like when I travel, I still journal every morning, no matter what, because depends what you do when you journal. Me, when I journal, it's about setting my day with intent. Like I say, I do record gratitude, then I write down the 3 top things that I'm going to do today, and then I give myself an affirmation. The affirmation's like a visualization to remind yourself of who you are. And just doing them every day, and then in the evening you account for it, and you also record any big wins and things like that, which is really important. But every day you're ticking off them 3 things, and it's consistent. So that's what I do every day. So that kind of routine. The other thing that I found that in studying high performers is they always use positive self-talk as well. So they never use negative self-talk about themselves, you know what I mean? They're always talking positively. And that is really important because it feeds into that visualization. So if you think about the visualization aspect, I've done a few videos on this recently, right? The reason why visualization is important, because you want a positive visualization about where you want to be. And this is the identity thing. So in here, in the journal at the start, we've got this creating your identity bit, and it's quite good. You've got this, I don't know if you've ever seen this, it's on the website if you want to get it, the identity evolution cycle, which starts with your identity, which is like who you see yourself to be. It's like, you know, it's almost like your highest level affirmation. And then under that, you've got your projects or the goals that you're setting and all the to-do lists and things. And then under that, you've got the daily journal, which is where you're recording your habits, right? So every big goal, your identity, right, is confirmed by your habits. So every kind of big goal is always confirmed by that incremental habit building, right? And that's why so the visualization is important, because it's your target basically. So if we say visualization, we also mean visualizing your identity, right? But what you've got to do is you've got to visualize that, right? You've then also got to you've got to create this visualization, right? And you've got to combine that with mimicking the success habits of these successful people, right? And put yourself into a scenario that would normally frighten you. So this is like, you've got a visualization, your identity. You're going to build some habits in accordance with that identity, which are going to mimic what successful people do in that area. And then you're going to take some risks and you're going to stick yourself into an uncomfortable scenario, right? And I did I think I did a live video when I was out in Canada, in Vancouver, about how do you know that you're on the path to change? Like, how do you know that it's going to be successful? Well, it's when what you're doing feels slightly uncomfortable. You're out of your comfort zone, right? And you're taking a little risk. And I feel like this now, right? Because I've pushed out, like I've got the two businesses, and I kind of feel a bit exposed on both at the minute, because the tech business, all right, it's 12 years old. You might think it's established, but you're always pushing on into big risks. And every time you push a big risk, you feel exposed a little bit. So we're out of our comfort zone. We've entered some new markets. We've got a trade show next week in a brand new market where nobody really knows who we are, but we're going to go in there and try and make some moves and get on. We've already got one of the best case studies you could ever get. We've got an absolutely brilliant client, got a fantastic case study. So we've made a good start, but we need sort of 3 or 4 other clients or deals in that area, and it's massive to get, right? It might go wrong, but I don't think it will, not based on the start we've got. So I feel really exposed there. And then obviously the new business, the e-commerce business, brand new to me, never done it before. I feel exposed there. So I'm putting myself out of my comfort zone. And that's the point. I've got my identity, which I know I'm very clear on. I've got my success habits that I'm modeling on. People like Tony Robbins, Tim Ferriss, Naval Ravikant, and others, but them 3 I really like. Personally, we've all got our own favourites. And I pretty much study these people, what they do. So I've got them habits. And then the next thing I've done is I've just taken all these risks and I'm chucking myself out of my comfort zone. I'll just have a look at these questions. How do you optimize for fulfillment? Are you talking about the e-commerce? I'm actually doing a video at the minute on how I started that business. So I did a video. If you look in my videos, I'm going to create like a business playlist and drop them all in, just so they're all together. And there's one there, how I started my tech business. It's quite a long one, probably 30 minutes, where I talk about how I created the tech business, which is a software business, cloud software. I started that business. It's 12 years old. What a fucking learning journey. I didn't have a clue. I mean, I was good consulting in the industry, don't get me wrong, but I had no idea how to. Being in a job, even at a very high level, is good, but you don't learn everything that you need to learn about business. You know what I mean? You learn how to be a consultant, but in business, there's all this kind of background administration that you need to learn. So I did a video on how I first started that, and the absolute massive amount of learning and growth is huge. Like all the things that you'll learn through experience. And I did another one on how I leverage the success of that to create the next business, the e-commerce business. And I'm just editing a video on how I started the e-commerce business, right? Oh, not e-commerce. Right. Lately, I've been feeling about doing the work. Right. Okay. Happiness doesn't last that long doing this thing. Right. Doing the work. Okay. Right. You mean life fulfillment? Right. Okay. On the business videos, I've got the next one coming out so you can just watch them. Right. On this one, life fulfillment. Right. Life fulfillment is fucking hell. Right. I've always said, I don't actually believe the term happiness is a strange one to me. I don't believe in happiness because happiness it comes and goes like the wind, right? And it's related to your current emotional state. And your emotional state can shift during the day or it can shift daily. I don't know if you've ever, like, some mornings when you wake up, you feel great, right? And then other mornings you wake up and you feel not so great or something. And it can be the smallest little thing that will knock your state, right? So if you get a little bit of good news, right? If you're feeling under pressure, you're thinking, shit, where's the money coming from, and where am I next going to get paid, and all this stuff. And if that goes on for a number of weeks, you'll start feeling scarcity, right? You'll start feeling very afraid of the future, and then all of a sudden, a bit of good news comes in, right? And it might be really small, and it'll just completely transform your state. And you'll feel optimistic and really good. Another thing that alters your state a lot is how much sleep you get. If you don't get sleep, you will feel like crap and your state will be down. And that negative outlook there will affect your reality. This is why visualization is so important and having positive self-talk. So sometimes you've got to force yourself to have a positive outlook by just forcing yourself to use empowering language. I know this is like sounds like nonsense, but it's really real. If you now just literally be grateful for what you've got. This is why I like journaling a lot. You know what I mean? Because every day it reminds you remind yourself of gratitude. And then the other part to it is, the three things. So you got to take action, right, on your life. I always think one of the best things that you can do, rather than worrying about whether you're happy, because happiness comes and goes, right? It goes like the wind. You want to be content, right? Content's a better word than happiness. And I think the way to feel content is living life on your terms, right? How do you live life on your terms? Well, this is doing the things that you say you're going to do. And that doesn't mean making millions and millions and millions of pounds. It means if you want to become financially successful or financially independent, create an identity for it, create some goals around it, and then start working towards it every day. So each day, this is why I wake up. You wouldn't believe how powerful it is. You wake up, I get out in the garden, I do my morning routine, do my journal, do my reading, set my goal, look at my goals, a little mini meditation, I work out. Just then, that kind of thing sets my day with intent, right? The gratitude reminds me of what we're grateful for. And if you don't do this, just try it. I promise you, it'll really help make you feel a lot better because you every day, just the act of doing that and writing down three things that you say you're going to do, and then during the day ticking them off. When you tick them off, it's really satisfying, and it becomes addictive. You go, right, see if we can do three more things tomorrow. And I do believe that one of the best things that you can do for yourself, this will help you with everything. If you're going through a breakup or you're worried about certain things in life, one of the best things you can do is start hitting your goals and working towards them. Because it's not about hitting the goal, it's the journey. You might have heard this, but just taking action trumps any therapy. Right? I'll tell you now, talking to people, talking about your problems, talking about where you're going to get fulfillment. Getting fulfillment is working towards your goals, a worthy goal. Was it, what was it called? I think I can't remember now, but the phrase was something like, you know, all about success is all about the continual realization of worthy goals just by working towards what you want in small chunks each day. Absolutely will transform your state. Waking up, going, right, what 3 things can I do? They might be really small. You know, a lot of people, because, yeah, all right, yeah, no worries, yeah, just try it. Like, because a lot of people that I like help, they sometimes don't know where to start, right? And I get this, right? And it can almost become like a spiral, like a declining spiral where you don't know where to start and you know what I mean? If you, and this is why I've never been able to, I know some people get depression and things, right? And I've never really been able to fully understand it. I kind of understand it from a theoretical point of view, but no matter what life has ever thrown at me, I've always been an optimist, and I don't know where that comes from, right? But when you're at the very bottom, and I guess from my understanding of depression, this is when you are at the very bottom, you cannot start, right? And I understand there's probably some chemical imbalances in the brain. It's not just a mental thing, whatever, right? But like if you're at the very bottom, I've had this chat with my brother too, right? Because I've seen him where he's literally done nothing but sleep. He stays at my house sometimes, and he's in bed till like one in the afternoon, and then he's just fucking around scrolling on his phone, and it's just like, I want to make a positive, so I do. I get him moving, and then if he stays at my house for a few weeks, at the start of when he comes and the end of when he goes, he's much better. He's getting up in the morning and doing things, and all you literally have to do if you like that is literally force yourself to change. Go, right, tomorrow I'm going to get up. I'm going to write 3 small things that I'm going to do. I'm going to if you want a journal, I would advise that. You don't have to, you can just write them down in a book. Still journal, it's still the same thing. You're just recording every day what you're doing. And just think, what can I do to make a difference today? And it might only be 20 minutes of work. But that 20 minutes of work every day compounding over time, you'd be amazed at the results. So it might be, I don't know, I've got to get a new job. Right, okay. What do I need? Well, I'm going to need a CV. I'm going to need some new clothes so I look smart when I go for the interview or whatever. There's loads of different things, and it might be, well, I ain't got money for clothes. Right, okay, well, where can I get some clothes? Who can I speak to? Who can I borrow? Right, these are all little things that you could do. Well, I'll just give my brother a ring, see if I can borrow a suit. Right, done. That might be the only thing you do that day, but you're moving yourself closer to getting that job. I need a CV. Right, I'm not so good at writing. Who can I speak to? Who can help me? Who's in my family or friend group has got a computer? They know what to do. They know how to write a good CV. Who can I learn from? Who do you think's got a good CV? What can I learn from their CV? All that. These are little things that you could do, right? Even at the very bottom. If you're like doing okay, you're in a decent job or whatever, quite often, and people, because I was in the golden handcuffs for years, worked in the city, career, good job, very good salary, but I had to be in, 9 to 5. It was quite difficult, right? So it was like, and I wanted to start a business, and I was like, shit, I'm in a good job here, right? And you know what it was? I was too comfortable, and I needed to break that comfort zone. And breaking the comfort zone is often hard, and you can do that in any area, right? It might be a relationship issue, you might have to finally let go of an individual so that you can create space for something new, which is an incredibly hard thing to do. But the learning and development that you get from doing that is quite often worth it. And the funny thing is with things like that, when you take both leaving a job or leaving a relationship or whatever, making that big change, you will only know in the future. This is the funny thing. You will only, in a few years' time, you'll be able to look back at that moment and go, yeah, I should have done that. Right. And this is, a lot of this stuff is written in the books, back to the title of the video about modeling yourself, mimicking the habits of elite performers. You'll find that the books of those performers will be talking about these things. And quite often when we make a decision, right, this is another thing about the journal, right, I like reading them back after 6 months. And the one thing I notice about myself, and I don't know if this is the same for you, because I've got years of journals, because journal is where I record everything that I do. The one thing I notice, we generally make good decisions, right? And what that means is we make decisions at that time based on the knowledge that we have. Occasionally we make silly decisions and we take silly risks. Usually they're emotional, right? When we make a bad decision, it's usually emotional. It's not rational. It's usually something like a bad relationship decision because it's made emotionally, right? Or an impulse purchase is made emotionally, right? So you've got to control your emotions. But once you've got control of your emotions and your own mind, we generally make good decisions. But we always tend to make them a bit later than we could have made. We always could have made them earlier. Every decision I made, I look at it and go, yeah, I should have made that. That was the right decision. Probably should have done it 6 months ago, right? So there's a big one. And this is why in my videos, I've talked a lot about making decisions and understanding things like loss aversion, because loss aversion is the explanation to why we make these emotional decisions. We tend to make decisions, basically the fear of loss is much greater to us than the win, the feeling of, as Tony Robbins said, we'll do a lot more to avoid pain than we will to seek pleasure, right? And what that means is, yeah, true. Yeah, what that means is there's such a thing called loss aversion. It's in the book Thinking Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman. Brilliant book. That's the main lesson in there. And Daniel says in that book that most people will need, if you look at a decision, they'll need the upside to be 1.5 to 2.5 times higher than the downside. So the percentage, the chances of a win need to be 1.5 to 2.5 times greater than the loss for you to make that decision. And what that means is, it's an emotional thing. What you should do is train yourself to make quick decisions on the smaller asymmetrical upside, right? This is what Tim Ferriss talks about, making it on the smaller, and it's like a trader's mindset, right? A trader's mindset, a really good stock trader makes decisions on stocks based on the data and the logic. They don't look at the fear, right? And it's like a good poker player, right? A good poker player has immense emotional self-control. So the idea being is, when you play poker, when it goes round the board, the blinds go up. You know what the blind is? It's just like minimum payment. And the blinds start going up to the point where if you don't bet and take a risk, you'll get exiting from the game just because the blinds will eat you. And your job is to always bet in proportion of that blind, regardless of how much you think, oh shit, that's a lot of money, you know what I mean? So you've almost got to train yourself to make decisions on on smaller, narrower successes. And the other thing is, if you made a decision rationally, right, and there's a risk, always is, well, anything valuable has risk attached to it, right? So if you make a decision rationally, and let's say you've done everything that you could, right? You're living in accordance with your identity, so you're using correct habits, because no one can guarantee success. All you can do is create the conditions for success by doing the right thing. So let's say you made the decision, right, and it went wrong. The only thing you should be judging yourself on is, did you do the right thing, right? And the fact that it went wrong is just chance, right? Now, let's say the next time that opportunity comes along, you should not use the past outcome to make, when you make the same decision again. You should make the same decision based on the facts, the data, the logic, doing the right things again, and disregard what happened in the past, right? Don't use the emotional outcome of that loss to affect you in the future. And that's pretty much it. So you make the same decision again, exactly the same, based on that asymmetrical upside. Yeah. I'm just reading this comment. Poker is a great game for building intuition, but don't start gambling. No, I don't gamble at all. I don't even do the lottery, right? I just don't believe in gambling. I'd rather create my own success. I mean, I know the lottery, you could win fucking millions and millions, but the chances of you getting that are so small. I think you're better off spending that time working towards your goals, and bet on yourself. Don't bet on luck. So you can create your own luck, right, by doing the right things. Now, you could argue, well, you got to be in it to win it with a lottery or whatever, but just look at the data, look at the chances of you winning that. I don't believe in any gambling, because the gambling business would not exist unless they profit from it. So why enter a business that is geared up to profit from you? Just the logic says don't do it to me. All right, forget all that. You got to be in it to win it stuff. I'll tell you what you want to be in: creating your own future, working towards it. I think that's a better use of your time. So yeah, I do. The only time I play poker is a bit of fun, Christmas with my friends every year. That's it. But I would never go and play. No, I agree with that. Right, I'm done here. Shoot me an email if you have any questions, everyone. But yeah, thanks for listening. And yeah, don't forget, start looking at high performers, what they do, how you can learn from them, and implementing them habits, those standard habits that everyone seems to do. As Tony Robbins says, success leaves clues. It really does. All you got to do is look at someone who's more successful than you. What do they do? Listen to them. They generally, all these people generally will talk about what they have done in their life to get there, and just do that. All right. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and see you all next time.